I suck at building, but I've made really cool stuff, and most people assume for Terraria it's either wooden box or it's like mega structure, beautiful build. But I think building really cool things just requires some basic knowledge, the most basic of knowledge. And you don't need to know all that detail stuff, which I don't know either, to make cool stuff. If you suck and you don't know how to do detail, there are 3 to 4 basic concepts that will transform your building ability. There's a few things you need to know before we start. So first of all, the most important thing you have to know is that all wood types, let me get these Goonies in here, can be painted brown to just blend in and look the same pretty much, but add a layer of variety. I forgot boreal wood too. Now when it comes to sand too, this stuff can be painted gray to just look like rocks. Pretty rocky. Next we got the normal dirt and stone textures of the game. They look literally terrible, bro. But you can make in a graveyard biome with ectomist at a crafting table different types of dirt walls and stone walls, which just look way better than the stupid dirt texture. Imagine a stone overhang like this. Trash. But instead you start putting some of these around. You know, kind of looks like some mossy cobblestone, you know? From Minecraft. You know, this reminds me of like old Minecraft texture packs, dude. This is the Minecraft texture. This is what the texture pack would do to it. So you've all probably seen this trick where you place grass in the background like this. And it looks good, especially if you mix in some fences and stuff. It can look very beautiful. But what people don't do is you can also use living leaf walls too, which make it look way better, in my opinion. Matter of fact, just using these instead of the grass walls entirely is just better. Beautiful. You don't want this ugliness. You want that beautifulness. Once again, it's like an updated texture. Same with stone. Much like wood, you can paint it all gray to make it blend in. It doesn't have to be the same block at all. And yet, now these just go perfectly well together. And you can mix them up a little bit. Oh my goodness, look at. So these are all very small tricks that will help you, but what do you do with them? That's the question, ain't it? That's the big question. Well, the answer to that, my friends, is shapes. And yeah, that's about it. Shapes. Big shapes. Overhangs. Overhangs are just background walls with blocks on the top, and yet they give you like a fat feeling of immersion and coolness with very little effort. If your friend David comes by and he has to go through an overhang to get to your mountain base, he's gonna start tweaking like, yo, Jacob knows how to build. No, he don't. No, he doesn't. But it just feels cool with very little effort. Literally just make a random sort of shape. You can do these pillars or whatever, put blocks on the top, sprinkle in some foliage or whatever, and it's like, whoa, like this dude kind of knows what he's doing. No, you don't. Now, when you make these overhangs, you can either live above them, use them as a base for your base, or you can live inside them, which is what I prefer to do. Like, I mean, why not? But you can also make these in any biome. I think specifically in the desert, they have a pretty good appeal with very little effort. Shapes are everything when it comes to building. If you look at any of my stuff in my world, this is my Pushing Limits series, my entire base is like overhangs. It's just multiple shapes and I'm living inside. Recently I made this arena and I just made giant flesh cubes, which look like I know what I'm doing when you look at them, but they're just cubes. They're not even cubular. I didn't even do that right. If you look at this example I built a second ago, it's just a large rectangle on top of like half of a circle. There's no real detail here, but I use the shapes well, so it looks good. So if you just use big shapes, you can make cool things extremely easy. Like this, for example. If your friend Joe has to use the bathroom or go eat lunch, he'll leave for 10 minutes. This is what you do. You go up in the air and you begin making a circle with sandstone. Just a circle, okay? It doesn't even have to be a good circle.
Mine wasn't.
And use whatever colors you want to paint it. And now you have a planet that you're living in. You can put all your supplies in there. And like I said, do this with any color you want. All right, that's up to you. You can do a purple one. It doesn't matter. And now Joe will get back, climb up the ladder, and be like,
Yo, how did you do this? This looks so good. When'd you learn how to build?
You didn't learn how to build. Here's another example. You can just make a glass circle and just live inside of them. Really just focus on the shape of the build you want to make, because the shape of the build will make up 80% of how good a house is when you don't know good detail, like me. So I just made 2 circles here, one on top of the other. Also marked out a circle-shaped door, And then I put some like wooden shapes on the sides. And very quickly, just from adding furniture and windows, it turns into a house. But the shape made up 80% of the build. It's the same with the glass house thing. I just filled it with dirt, and then after putting furniture inside, it kind of just turns into a house. But I don't know what I'm doing. Now I know what a lot of you are gonna say. Wild, I get the shape part, but dude, you know detail. There's clearly detail there. And yeah, there is a little bit of detail I haven't gone over yet. And if you don't know it, you're gonna think that I know detail, but I don't. So here's a few more easy tricks you can do in your builds. I always use wooden beams, crates, barrels, and rope to add detail to my interiors. A lot of times when I fill in background walls, I will use a different background wall for the ground layer or for the sides of the walls. And I place stronger looking blocks where the pillars are. Another simple trick is to make good looking trees extremely easy. At the very beginning of the game, you can just use a fence post and living leaf walls scattered on either side. Of course, you know what a tree looks like. Make the bottom a little bit longer than the top. Don't make it a straight triangle, kind of place them randomly and loosely, and instantly this can transform your beginner house. Also, try using the different trees you can buy from the zoologist. I find if you have a couple yellow and pink trees, your area just looks better overall. Also, you saw earlier, using mud brick and mud mixed together is like the best way to make an overhang or just a base for your house. If you use coral and you paint it green, every time you place it, there will be a different type of coral that gets placed. And it just looks really good. It looks like grass and there's like a nice variety. And then something else I do a lot in these builds is I make like little overhangs, I guess you could say, or balconies. And by just hammering blocks like this, it looks like the platform is being held up. You can put this on the side of any house or just anything you want. And it instantly just like makes it better. Now I've looked at hundreds of Terraria builds and I noticed all of the absolute beauties of artwork have one key factor in common. And without it, their builds would literally not be possible. And that's actuators. Actuators have the highest output for the least amount of effort when you build. So here's a wall I made, and it looks pretty good. It's simple, but it looks nice. This would be nice to walk past, or would look nice as a room in a building. And do you notice it? The actuated blocks I used in the middle of the build. These things kind of blend in, but they look delicious.
So good. So good and tasty.
Because once I took them away, this is what the wall looks like now. And it's just like, whoa, you just placed a background wall, you don't know how to build. But when you walk past the right side, it's like, yo, okay, this dude knows what he's doing. Now, we suck at building, so we do not know. Yeah, we. Yes, we. Both of us, that's why you're here. Idiot. So because we suck, we cannot use these actuators in the ways that the pros do. I mean, this is incomprehensible to us, really. But you can see if I pull up a couple builds. This is too detailed for me to even comprehend. But you can see right here, he used them for pillars in the background. He actuated blocks here, and also actuated blocks for these little slants coming out of the building. Now on this build, you can see the dude actuated some balloon blocks to make a mirror above the dresser. And then also if you look at this middle window, it seems he just actuated some glass blocks and some wood blocks above, hammered them into triangle shapes so it would show the window behind. The best example for it is by far going to be this build right here. It is just layered with actuated blocks everywhere. And if you're not used to being able to see this stuff, you probably can't even tell. You just don't even know what is what. But if I zoom up here, this middle section, this square, this rectangle, is just one plain wall with a bunch of actuated blocks hammered.
Oh, I think I get it now. I think I get it.
Now, the best way to use these things simply without overcomplicating it and being a professional that I have found is to separate textures. It is a great way to separate textures on a flat background wall, which is what I did with the ice and what you can do with stone. You could also use it to take up space too on a wall. If you want to fill up a wall, throw up some actuated stuff. And if it looks too dark, you can always paint it with illuminate coating. Anytime you actuate something, it gets really dark, so I recommend painting everything with illuminate coating after you actuate it. And the reason actuators are so much better than just normal background walls, like why not just use background walls instead of actuators in most situations? Why not? And it's because background walls are chunky and fat, while normal blocks are not. So there's only so much detail you can do when you're using big chunky blocks, dude. Here's an example of the way I used it. I forced myself to build like a bridge overhang with no actuators and just background walls. And as you can see, like, it looks pretty good, honestly, dude. Like, I don't think most of us would mind having this in our world. But if I fly over to this other build I made using actuators, it looks a whole lot better. The only idea I had was like, okay, if I just put some like small blocks right here actuated, these are just hammered wood blocks. I put one row right there, I put one at the top, maybe it would look good, and it does. You just can't get that level of detail if you're not actuating blocks. Now the pros also use this to make things 3D, which my brain can't even begin to comprehend, so you're not going to be learning that today. But hopefully you see some like basic ways you can use these things to improve your build. Maybe use them on the foundation of your build instead of just background walls to hold up your build. Why don't you just actuate some blocks? Make some sort of pattern. You can definitely find an infinite amount of ways to like subtly include these things once you know about them. Now the last thing I'm going to end off this video with, which ties everything together, is going to be a pretty basic tip that you're going to think to just brush over. You might as well click off the video at this point, you know, like, this tip is so silly, right? You don't need this one. This trick is everything. This is literally everything. It ties everything together. It is the trick, okay? And the trick is inspiration. Do you really think I made that pumpkin house just all on my own? I just had the idea to do this? No, of course I stole it. When you don't know how to build, you don't have that experience, dude. Buddy, you need inspiration desperately. Like, you know how I said the shape makes up 80% of the build? Well, you get 100% of the shape or 90% of the shape from your inspiration. So if you don't even need to like come up with the shape, and the shape is most of the build, how easy is it to then just like make something decent right away? Now your build is not always going to match the inspiration perfectly. Matter of fact, it's going to be very different, and that's like the whole joy in building in the first place. But it gives you a huge base to work off of, dude. People who can't build, if you give them an inspiration, all of a sudden, damn, they make impressive things. Pretty simply. And here's some other examples of inspiration that you can clearly see, like, this stuff can be turned into a house, this stuff can be turned into anything. But you just need that inspiration to work with. It basically gives you the exact shapes you're working with before you even start building. And if your shape looks good, dude, your build will look good. And when you suck at building like you, the best thing you have in your reservoir of tricks is ideas. You need some sort of idea. Now, where do you get this inspiration from? Because that's like the question. It's like, okay, these pictures are awesome. Where do you get them though? I get them all from Pinterest. I know some of you are like thinking, dude, I'm a grown-ass dude.
This is stuff for girls, ain't it?
And that's what I thought too. But even that picture is from Pinterest. And these ones, okay? There's manly stuff on there. I thought it was like a website for girls and stuff, like mostly, bro. Nah, bro. This stuff has everything. Random inspiration, which I would prefer to have. And that's how I make everything I make. Look at my Flesh Cube Arena in my Pushing Limits series. These towers, I got from this image. The Flesh Cubes, I got from this image. And once I had the idea, it was easy to just, you know, put it together somewhat. And probably the most important part about picking ideas is you want to pick an idea that doesn't require good detail. Of course, the inspiration will help you, but if the inspiration is like, hey, a small house that requires a bunch of detail, maybe, you know, you can't do that one. Pick things that are simple, that don't require too much detail, and that's how you can get like a big output for little effort and little knowledge of building. This is a town I made with only slime blocks, and it looks amazing. The houses are kind of trash, but it's just like the idea that really carries it home. My inspiration was backrooms / like old cartoony stuff. And then I also made this arena. My inspiration was the Fortnite buildings and Plants vs. Zombies, Garden and Warfare stuff. Balloon blocks and slime blocks work really well for cartoon styles, by the way, if you want to try those out. But other than that, that's the end of the video. Hopefully all those tips help you. I think actuators, if you start using them just a little bit, will enhance your game by 50%. You pick an idea that has a high output for little effort and doesn't require you to actually know detail. You focus on just like the large shapes of it using your reference, and usually you can make something really impressive even when you suck. So go out there, get you the bag, make some good builds, dude, and press your friends. Anytime they leave for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, that's when you take over. You have them walk through the overhang to your castle, which I had a reference for. See you later, subscribe, and if you're interested in building, watch my solo player series. I have 10 episodes right now. I do a lot of building. Bye.